Okay, starting.
Okay, what?
This world is named Penthagro. This map is not correct at all. This map is just a simulacrum from Xevious. Um, how this world started was there were 7 forces that were unbound, chaotic. They didn't have any form to them. And, well, they had some form, but they were very unbound and mostly chaotic. And it was a, it was similar to, if you know the idea of the first world or the Fey realm. Um, it was very magic intensive, and reality was not stable until um, each element came into its own. Water, light, earth, fire, wind, and time,
Uh,
time or artifice. These these forces were all unto their own abilities and physics. Uh, time, however, was in, interwoven into each of them. They were all interwoven into each other to a point, but time was the most heavy and dense of them. And so, time itself was a sort of master of the forces. And then there were 2 lands. There was a land of 7 and a land of 5. The land of 7 had all the major forces and elements in them, with the 8th interspersed in between all of them in a hidden realm. The land of 5 was very technically powerful, but the land of 7 was overwhelmingly chaotic and very rapid in how they moved and changed and progressed, and even began. And so the land of 5, its rulers saw fit to create a great storm around their part of the world. This great storm shielded their lands from the land of 7's chaos and speed and variability. And so they progressed unto themselves to finally, if need be able to fend off any threats. But before this happened, right before they progressed to that point, a history repeating itself for a 3rd time was happening in the land of 5. A Darab Eater had seized power in the swamp or earth land. Land of 5 comprised of light or plains, aqua or island, swamp or earth, mountain or fire, and forest or combination of wind and what's that? I guess it too has a bit of earth in it. But yes, but this is before that, in the Land of Seven, after the storm wall was put up. It was ravaged by magical creatures of many varieties, not the least of which were dragons. These dragons, however, came in many varieties and dispositions towards the people who inhabited the land. The peoples, I should say, rather. And the Land of Seven's people and magical creatures eventually formed a lawful relationship instead of just a chaotic one, where some of the more benign and benevolent of the magical creatures, or at least less unkind or less aggressive, would form a pact with a local area or group of villages or a town or a city, and be their defender for whatever they may have traded for, and or perform other services depending on the creature and the people and their dispositions towards each other, which is generally tenuous with few exceptions. But this brings us to the next part of our story. One such magical pact bonding was of what this world calls dragon stones. Each dragon stone can correspond to the element of the dragon it is created to bond to, usually created by the dragon. Though there were rumors of wizards who were potent enough to create a forcefully bonding one, but few had ever attempted, and no tales had ever returned yet of those who had forcefully bonded a dragon with such a stone, because usually only dragons contain such an enormous amount of magical energy. And so the eventual mishandling of it was almost destined to happen. And on the border between a more mountainous and aggressive grouping who had formed a pact with a dragon, with said dragonstone, had come to an uneasy yet solid enough alliance for a while, but it had splintered over time due to the nature of the dragon. and its ferocity that it would visit upon the countryside upon occasion, especially when it was not bound to a pact. This particular dragon had reached, what was it, roughly 3,500 to 4,000 years old almost? Or was it a little younger?
Basically teenager to young adult in dragon years.
Oh, okay. Oh, that'd be more
probably
like,
around 300.
yeah, 300 to 500 or so. If I remember right.
Well, in D&D, I think around 300
Okay.
or so.
Got it. I recall. Where was the one that was... Oh, I guess that's how long that world was maybe around. Either way, the important part was the land had finally solidified. It wasn't shifting or changing anymore for the past 100 years, and the people were settling down, and those pacts were being made, and roughly another 30 to 60 years after that settling, so 160 years after the settling total, this event would probably have transpired. A goodness. I'm having trouble remembering this part. One moment. What was the occupation of the hero who had the travailances visited upon him?
My character?
Yes, yes.
He's basically the one in charge of communicating with the dragon, kind of, what was that we were calling it? Sort of like the town guard or whatever.
Yes, I recall.
Whatever we called it, I don't
believe it was
either.
something to the tune of Dragon Speaker.
I guess if you want to give it a supremely general term.
Yeah. They were the twixt between the town or village or area and the dragon, or the magical creature, depending on what it was. Some had made pacts with Griffin and Sphinx. Griffin, strangely, were more honorable, whereas the Sphinx were more, not quite treacherous, but word detail oriented. So very lawful in a weird way.
There's different kinds of pacts from the 5 stones that I have.
Yeah, very different. This one was
the
made.
5 dragon stones are based around the 5 colors of the Dungeons and Dragons dragons.
And such. Oh goodness. Sorry, my brain is just not remembering the next part. Oh yes, and such was this area's dragon reflected the land's nature of fire and was therefore red. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the red dragon. The land doesn't really seem to be like it should be a fire zone.
No.
Yet still somehow is classified as.
It's vaguely mountainous, but it also has hints of forest and plains and at least a river running through for the people. Oh, sorry.
More forest than mountains, actually.
Right, though it is on the steps of it, and then it abuts into the forest area more, though. The initial forest there would probably run into where the air kind of stops. Or maybe a little further out. But it would only really be able to have one or two canopies. Whereas deeper into the forests, I may not have quite mentioned, there were 2 or 3 canopy of trees there.
They live in the forest area that's up the mountain. Dragon lives in the mountain.
And so the dragon had protected the area from other magical creatures and differing threats, undead raids on occasion, other parties trading for supplies, even occasional forest fires that would at least try to backdraft for the village out of respect for the pact. This pact, however tenuous it was still solid enough to cause the dragon to behave and such.
Actually, the stone prevents him from being able to attack the village. The dragon within the pact isn't capable of attacking the people of the village because of the power of the magical item.
Yes. And so, at one point, however, the pact was somewhat fumbled. The details are a little muddy, but people recall, and I recall, that the dragon stone was second-hand handed off due to a death in the family. And then, during the time the stone was inactive, the dragon had ravaged the town a little earlier in life. And then they had attempted to restore the pact. The person they had sent had an unfortunate personal vendetta, even though he was the primary candidate who would oversee and renew said pact. It went sour before the pact could be completed, and the dragon had essentially rampaged and nearly killed the hero, knocking them off of a ledge rather trickily, thinking that they had killed them after spewing fire in their general direction. They were protected by a thicket of tree that had burned in place, and then as the dragon flew away, the trees fell out of the way away from our hero, allowing them to progress. However, they were unconscious, if I recall, and were rescued by a priestess, a leader of a religious leader as well, of a town, a wind forest village, if you will, rather, though it was a prosperous one. They did well in agriculture, and their art trade as well really enriched them in that they had made and sold many flute. And recently their protector had perished, but passed on its young. That's another story, though. We'll get to that later. Fate held that said priestess who held her village's dragonstone, a pact with their guardian. Oh my goodness, I'm getting a call. Had found our hero. One moment. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Anyways, but, oh yes. The one priestess had found the uh, chosen to commune with the fire area's guardian, and she didn't realize who he was, but she realized that he was in pain and shouldn't be left out in the middle of nowhere, kind of half charred up and clawed up. She inspected his wounds, and they were thankfully very shallow, not incredibly deep. Though they looked like they should have been worse, much worse. He had almost looked like he'd been run through, but he was merely a flesh wound visited upon him. And she had used a little bit of a salve to keep him stabilized, and on the major wound areas, and then did she wake him up, I believe, and see if he could stand and walk?
Yeah.
Okay. And he had, however, he had no memory of his life before then. He still knew how to talk and all the basic important stuff, but...
Well, he had a vague understanding of what had happened.
Oh. Ah. But it was not incredibly clear. And it was unfortunately during this time that the dragon flew off and attacked the village. However, these details escaped the grasp of the hero. On their way back to the village, they were spotted by another strange traveler. This strange traveler wore a tunic of pink, and he was a human. However, he had a spark of otherworldliness to him. Like, he wasn't from this world, you get the idea. And he, however, came into this world and ran into circumstances and problems, and came through rescuing a small reptilian child, a lizardfolk child, from, if I recall correctly, enslavement of sorts. Probably indentured servitude visited upon her from her parents. This duo was traversing the forest, both foraging and journeying. The primary quest was to attempt to find a new home for the child, if I recall correctly, or help raise her if he cannot find a suitable place for her to stay. And then he had become attached, if I recalled the chain of events correctly, up until this beginning point, and thought of her as his daughter, despite her being of a completely different race. And this hero's name was either Arcus or Quester, for he was no longer just some quester. And so they had, upon seeing a little bit of the ruckus between the dragon and the other hero with the Firestone. What was this hero's name? Fyrax? Or no?
No, that's my dragon boy. This guy's Aaron.
Aaron.
He has the Firestone, which lets him communicate with the fire element dragon.
Thank you, thank you. And so Aaron and I believe her name was, or is, Solenia. Named, I believe the Wind Area's priestess was named Solenia or something like that. Named after.
I don't know.
It was named after the sun and the their word for growing and the verdance of the trees in the area. They were lean. And Solenia had was a green cape and
Well,
hood.
anyway.
Yeah. Leather armor themselves. Our strange journeyer had followed the peculiar two guardian communioneers to a village from which he was unfamiliar with, being not from the territory, obviously. But it seemed a peaceful one, and prosperous enough that he should stay there if he could, or at least trade with them. And so he retrieved his companion and brought her to the village along with them. In the meantime, they had brought Aaron to the main tent. And had finished patching him up by consulting the elder, who has seen dragon attacks before. They're not quite so common in recent times. And thus she knew how to work their burn healing ointments and salves much more effectively than normal. She knew the tricks and the ins and outs to essentially get Aaron back up and running by the end of the day. However, after she had completed patching Aaron up, the strange journeyer Quester had arrived in town and was receiving a bit of attention from the locals, but he ignored that and rushed over to the main tent to figure out how big of a place this is. And or no, he had brushed over to the galley because he had been running low on rations and wanted to restock, that's right, and have somewhere for his companion to eat for a moment and rest. Well, at first met with puzzlement, the local residents were simply glad to have a customer of sorts. And they had served them their local cuisine. Different odd wild meats, different tuber vegetables more than anything, handfuls of greens maybe, but and then of course a couple of fruits and nuts here and there because many trees. And then after Quester had made sure that was taken care of and settled and this was a decently safe place, he went over to the main tent and got to speaking with the elder about the local happening he saw, which simply gave them another witness to confirm that the fire area's dragon had loosed itself from its pact with them, or is attempting to rather, and thinks it has done so, but he is or wait, did the one there know that? Oh yes, they give me a moment. They only really knew of the pact stuff in general because they themselves had one, or have one rather. and their area's dragon was a specific and special kind. For whatever reason, it was a Voiver, which is generally a viper, and however it hides in bogs and swamps. Though this is a forest area, it's a very strange pick. However, it it appeared to have also flown as well, so it was a very special breed of Voiver. VUIVIERE, if I recall the spelling correctly. And it has a special stone for its main eye, though this one had evolved 2 further eyes, and its main eye has migrated down at the base of its neck. And so its most powerful eye looks more akin to a necklace than anything, and its other 2 eyes are where they should normally be. But it gives it a strange serpent-like look for certain. Domed carapace, similarly. Well, not quite domed, but the herpetile or snake-like top. When it gets older, it sprouts front arms and even legs, the older it gets. However, when it's very young, it is simply much like a snake, and this breed with wings. So this one, very young, is near the priestess quite often. When they arrive at the tent, they see this green serpent that's magically flying with its wings, hovering inside the tent, almost like it was meditating. And they had somewhat stirred it, but it didn't appear to really be an angry type of creature. It was merely happy to see Selenia return. And it was at this point Quester burst into the room and had asked about, well, what did he ask about? Oh, it was something to do with what had happened to him to get him here. Oh well. Whatever he had asked about, it had ended up being either an unknown or otherwise not particularly important. However, he did then inquire if they knew about the dragon that had attacked, which, like I said, it confirmed their witness reporting. And Oh yes, it was at this point that thunder had cracked, and however there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Uh, they had then rushed out on instinct, knowing that there shouldn't be any rain anywhere near here at the moment, to see a rider in the sky on, or rather a flying creature in the sky. It looked to be of undead variety, of smaller wyvern type dragon, but it was all bone, if I recall. Is that correct? It was small enough to be properly ridden and somewhat manipulated by a human. It had received several magical volleys, however, as it itself attempted to spew lightning. It had been hit by both fire and ice, if I recall correctly, which had eventually ended it, but its pilot, or rider rather, was skilled enough to get it right over the main tent and drop off of it as it had glided and crashed just outside of the village. The rider then attempted to engage in hand-to-hand combat using a pair of swords, and however was quickly apprehended when taking on not 2 or 3 but 4 different somewhat heroic warriors. Oh yes, I had forgotten as well right before that a wizard had arrived. Uh-oh, somebody's trying to call me. Gosh darn it, 1 moment, be right back. Goodness, everybody wanting to call me and message me. It's like, no, go away. Trying to run and be the trying to be the RPG. So where? Oh yes. I'd missed one important detail. A wizard of some renown had also arrived in town that day. From a more water-inclined area. Though there was plenty of forest there too. And with this wizard came along a very well-trained apprentice, and if I recall correctly, he had hired an escort, but they rarely are actually needed to defend him, though they are his exclusive bodyguards. He had brought along with him as well a new tome that he had managed to craft into existence. And it was to remain a secret what exactly it did. This secret will be eventually revealed, but at the moment, our heroes had no clue of what this book did. The wizard needed to speak with Selenia, and Selenia had dismissed the people for a moment. But then upon them exiting the hut, that's right, the thunder had cracked, and even Selenia and the wizard had to stop speaking about their project and see, and then respond to the new threat, which was very quickly neutralized, mostly thanks, if not entirely thanks, to our heroes. And the Wind Forest village had finally its proof of raids upon their village for capturing one of the more brash and young of the lightning raiders, if you will. And the villages had a main court village that was heavily associated, though not directly entirely connected to the time land that they had spoken of, and few believe exist. So they took their taken their both mount and messenger type very large rock giant birds. This giant flock of birds that they had managed to have an understanding with and helped each other hunt. They beseeched a few of their help and managed to get over to the Time Light mountainous area. Their guards had strange armors that at first didn't look like very much, but when they chose a element or mode to become, they are a most fearsome presence indeed. And so even the Lightning Raiders tribe were respectful of them. However, instead of needing to wait however long for the Lightning Earth Mountain tribes, the Dark Armor tribes, some call them, their leaders sort of Khanate warrior leadership. Oh gosh. They were here to actually pay their yearly tribute, but apparently this coincided with this one young one's raid, which then turned their tribute into a trial, which is very disgraceful to them in the first place. This trial ran very quickly and obviously found the offending party guilty, and they were ordered to pay recompense. The recompense they had asked for, and thus the Lightning Raiders tribe were ordered to abide by, or protect the wind and fire and any other surrounding villages from direct raid for at least 1 year, and which means they have to go extra far to raid, or they'll just have to hunt and trade or whatever, and will face the wrath of all the other tribes because of the law of the Light Earth Mountain tribe. Or Light Time Mountain, sorry. Light Time Mountain. Known as Lightning Earth Mountain. And, oh goodness. It was shortly after this point when our heroes had recognized that the tome the wizard had brought along was quite dangerous. So yes, they had tried to ask for Selenia and the renowned wizard had tried to ask for some privacy to speak about his new magical tome, but the apprentice and others were not having it. Oh, wait. That's the apprentice's name. Isn't it?
What?
Selenia. That's where I'm remembering that. So Layla, or something like that. Yes. Solea. Yeah, okay. Yes, Selenia was the apprentice. Solea was the priestess. There we go. Now I'm remembering the details. I think. So yes, the apprentice Selenia had stood up to her mentor and wizard. The name we gave him. Either way, she had stood up to him and said, we should all take a look at this magical tome, which yielded fruitful results when Selenia had gone and taken a look. They had realized that it indeed, as the creating wizard thought, led to a different dimension. This otherworldly dimension was rather buoyant and strange. But they had decided to hold off on exploring it until right before Selenia was about to close the book. A few of the party saw, as they were flipping through pages on one of the other pages, a cartoony angel had been drawn somewhere, and its lines then disappeared, and then on the next page over, you saw this cartoony, incredibly muscular angel carry off a much bigger and much more realistic looking angel and a drow. This pairing was somewhat familiar to at least the quester, if not also Selenia. And therefore they had then decided to use the power of the book to enter into this strange land of drawings. And within this strange land of drawings, they came out of a book corresponding theirs in this land. It was in a fairly open field, somewhat of a little meadow with just handfuls of trees here and there, and then a small forest, a very boggy forest to the north, through which they had traveled. And then To the north of that boggy swamp, there were another field that then was at the base of a very tall hill, a small mountain. And they then proceeding through the swamp, saw some strange eyeball creatures. They were flowers, but their flower in the middle was an eyeball that would occasionally blink. It didn't really make any noise. It didn't really do anything other than occasionally look at you and then go to looking for some sunlight. And then there were other fairly normal flora and fauna of the swamp variety. They didn't run across any gators. They did, however, run across... Actually, they did run across a gator, if I recall. It was a small, strange alligator. He looked neither friendly nor aggressive. When they spoke with him, he had said he was hungry. And so they asked if he knew the way forward, and he said yes. And so they offered to trade, helping him get some food for going forward. This strange, large-eyed, large-mouthed, sort of anthropomorphic alligator, but its body was very tiny and its head was somewhat huge. Bigger than its body, in fact. Had chosen to aid them. And they showed it the eyeball plants from earlier, and it had just simply been all over itself because it couldn't find those anywhere. And so it had a few, 2 or 3, and then that was its fill. It didn't need much. And then it went north with them through the thicket to evade some large predators that helped them to evade. And at which point, after they passed through the thicker part of the swampy forest, they then arrived at a very open field at first glance. But upon closer inspection, the field was covered with portals that would bounce you around from place to place. It looked like several clear sheets of floating glass spinning around here and there. And it was just a mountain of them. Once you got inside it, it was hard to get up and out. There was a handful of places where you could go up and out, but that was only if you could really fly or anything. So at that point, our heroes had decided to do the heroic thing and test the waters. And they had made Quester poke his finger into the mirrors and saw that it came out the other end, way over, somewhere on the other side of the field, just about. It was very tiny to them, but they could barely see it. And so they stepped into the portal right in front of them and were teleported 3/4 of the way across. And then they came to another grouping and couldn't progress any further across the field. So then they stepped through another portal that took them back to just before half. And then they took another portal that bounced them over to the left when they decided that was the wrong way. So they went back to the first one, then the second one, and then they made a different choice that then led them to a spot that they realized they could jet themselves up and out and over onto the mountainous terrain. And so they used the wind rings and amulet and belt that they had each acquired, our three heroes, to then propel themselves up and out of the small area and onto the mountain itself, at which point they started a climb. And there was a path up, but they still needed to keep their footing and hang on to the rock face, because this path was very well worn. And so they climbed up and up and up onto the top of this large hill, smallish, mountainous area. It was snowy at the top, despite being very short. And at the top of this mountain, an angel held captive an angel and a drow. The angel was giving trial to the two. And going to impose its judgment. It had said that the angel it had caught, whose name was Cymdiel, Cymdiel, was committing a divine crime for impersonating an angel itself, it knew. When in fact itself was the drawn simulacrum. And the perpetrator of the initial event that caused this, the drow, whose name is Lenoro Grey Squall. He was our multi-dimensional players recognize this character and the angel from a Weird War Kaiser's Gate campaign. And this character, Lenoro Greyskull, was called Lenoro Greystorm, and he was the most cowardly of the Grey Storms. But he had managed to last the longest. However, he was captured after... he was first captured, and then he had attempted to summon a Draco Lich, a Lich Dragon, that our heroes then soundly defeated after a skirmish, a difficult skirmish. And they then captured him, and he lived out his days in a prison, for the most part, for having for war crimes and crimes against all races, because in Weird War crossed with Kaiser's Gate, specifically Kaiser's Gate, multiple high fantasy races are in the mix, whereas Weird War itself is just humans and then monsters. with like maybe werewolves and vampires and stuff like that on the side, but that's an aside. And a different place in a different time and story. Simdiel is from the same world, Weird War, Kaiser's Gate, representing the angels, and she, through her angelic nature, is very easily able to traverse planes and worlds at will, though she has to do so through certain channels and means, of course. Lenoro arrived here trying to continue his story and learn from his old story and not be such a coward. However, upon finding or crafting this tome, this extra dimensional tome that allowed what he drew to become somewhat real, the angel Simdiel arrived merely to interrogate him and maybe take him away, but he immediately thought she was here and recognized her as to take him away from this world and possibly out of this life, and put him into some kind of arrest again, which he is very much opposed to at that point, having some solid memory of this previous life of his. And he drew in his extra dimensional tome a cartoonish version of her to capture her, but it backfired and went horribly right, and that it was a very strong and fast version of her, but it captured him too, because it recognized him as selfish and cowardly and up to no good in whatever was happening. So here they were in court, the kangaroo court of a impish version of a very muscular angel being tried. It was at this point that our heroes interjected and proved to the animated angel that the angel before it was the true original. And that it should recant and allow the original to return to its world. And then after investigating why and how Lenoro got there, they had merely decided to confiscate his book and investigate the society that he was in and around. So they had went through his book to his areas, and they were just outside of a swampy wooded area that had then had some strange stones. One looked like a sort of fin, but you could see through it. It appeared to collect ambient magical energy. Another stone structure that there are several of scattered about as well would be this one was a bit more spiky and antenna-like. It looked like it might be a transmitter of sorts, or a signal receiver or something. And those were scattered about as well, along with the finned ones. And they were paired, and a third stone with each of those pairs, making them trios. And this third stone was rounded, and you merely needed to be a living person and to press the front of this rounded stone on just the right spot. And a square portal, a doorway of light, will appear. And when you pass through it, all of it's bright-ish on the other side, like nice ambient light, but it appears to be really nice, however artificial in a strange way, and kind of everywhere, though it emanates from different sources, but mostly a central point out and up in the middle of the area that you arrive to. It appears to be as large as one of each of the other lands. And they realized that they had stumbled upon the land of time. And that our interloper from another world, trying to live out a semi-normal life, he says, and maybe appears to live in the time area, and thus has much great magical power at his disposal. However, upon inspecting that civilization, they find that that civilization is mostly quite peaceful. Sometimes they rush ahead technology, but usually it is quite peaceful. And from what our heroes and myself can understand, wouldn't be malicious. However, they are judicious, and may not acquiesce to every little thing. And so, from there, oh goodness, what happened from there? Or is that where we got to? I can't hear you if you're talking.
I'm not saying anything.
Okay. I think that's about caught up. Might be a little more.
But finally do things. One sec, I need to teach Sakura some more math. I'm finally gonna do the thing. I've completely forgotten where we are.
Yeah. We're at the time land, basically, if I recall correctly.
We're in the time area, we're missing a player, and we just narrated the entire thing of what we did.
Yep. Campaign save recorded.
Yay! And we were going. I have absolutely no clue where.
You were going to.
My character's story, it's all okay.
Yep.
Pretty sure there were only 5 packed stones at all.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just not so special.
There are only 5 packed stones, but there are other ways of having pacts.
Right, you can just have an agreement with the creature.
Mm-hmm. And use the power of law.
These are colored dragons, and according to D&D, the colored dragons are evil, so you have to have stones to get them to do what you want.
Yes.
Wrong! These ones are not D&D dragons. Thus, some of them actually don't even really care about the pact. They're being good because they are good.
Yeah.
But anyway, do the thing!
Well, where... Do you know where you're at?
The time zone.
Yes.
From there, I have absolutely no clue where we were headed. Hey yo, where were we headed? We're finally on to playing. To confirm if we had another member. I think we've determined that the time zone is good. Yes. They have good food. Makes them good. It doesn't pick you up, you know. Well, this will be fun. I'll be having communications with people, and anybody watching the video will have absolutely no clue half of the context. Oh well.
That's most of YouTube in the first place. Just no context. None.
I'm gonna move this a little bit closer to see if the microphone will pick up anything better. Oh no. Well, anyway, I've absolutely no clue what we were up to next. Probably
Next.
because we're waiting on the other ally to pick where to go next.
Well, you've basically determined that old boy, his story is right. He's just a goof making the wrong thing. He needs to work on something else. The Lenoro Gray Squall.
We left him to watch by what's her name?
Simdio. And Soleida.
Simdio.
Yep.
And that's where we had left. Because we don't care about him.
Yep. He's a coward. That coward? I'm not a coward. I'll summon a Draco Lich at you. Poor Lenoro. So, yes. Do you want to go and tell them to let him come here and take him here and then figure out where you can go through here too? Or do you want to get back to the Wind Village and...
Yeah, I think we were wanting to go back to the Wind Village.
Okay. So we pull ourselves out of the time area, go through the book, put the book back in the time area somewhere safe-ish, and then go back through the book, go through the other book, the first book that you came in through the animated world to, and then, goodness. Where, yes. You got to chatting with Lenoro and Simdiel and Solea, and they let him go. You explained to him that this book is just... Why did you make this book? He's like, I don't know, I just wanted to be great. Like, well, go be different great. Quit making things that screw stuff up. He says, okay, and goes off on another magical project, research tangent, whatever. Because he also wants to be really, really smart.
And shall prove over and over that he isn't.
Oh, he might help you out here and there. You never know. He might. A blind hog finds an acorn in the slop pile every once in a while.
I'm not going to question why that is what you have to say about, but okay.
Ancient Chinese saying. Blind hog finds find acorn in slop pile every once in a while. No, I'm kidding.
Instantly, I do not feel embarrassed about being on this.
Yeah. No. Don't worry.
Because you will be more embarrassing than I ever could.
Yes, please, thank you. Let me be all the embarrassing. That's the host's main shtick, usually, as far as I know, is to take all the heat off their friends. Anyways. Unless it's a roast, that's to crank the heat up to 11, but this is different. Yes. So, where would you like to go from the Wind Village, now that, Quester has his new gray armor? The dark armor people were offended that he asked for any, and, but they were ordered to give him what he wanted, so they got some of the armor from, some suits of armor from them for their own guard, and protection, so on and so forth, for a while. And there was a small spike in their flute sales, funny enough, if I remember rolling correctly for trade. And so come on. the quest is wide open for figuring out what we're doing. Would you want to go to
Looking
try
for
to...
dragons, or at least one character is.
Yeah, would you want to go and try to hunt down the red dragon? The main red dragon?
He's kind of trying not to find that one.
Oh, he's trying to hide from him?
No, he's trying to look for a new red dragon.
Oh, a new red dragon. Okay. So then... That means...
Which he's probably gonna end up running into the red dragon anyway.
Possibly. Or they could use the time area to shortcut themselves into just the right area. You know where and how?
Go through the time zone.
Well, yeah, yep, you get over to the time zone, of course, but what area do you want to go to from there to guarantee, or at least raise a good probability into the dragon being much kinder?
And he also doesn't know that the stone only works for specific kinds of dragons because, well, I mean, all the ones that own stones don't really even know about the existence of
the others so well, yeah. The only two who know about each other are fire and wind at the moment because they basically just figured it out at the start of the campaign.
They kind of magically ran into each other.
And you have a... Oh, what is it going on? I'm sorry, I'm just having a brain fart right now.
No, it's okay.
Oh, you have a wide open swath of decisions, though, that you can make in terms of where you can go, though, as you know. You can basically pick the area that you go to.
I have absolutely no clue where to go.
That happens. Well, what affinity would you like to see the most? Or ask our elf friend.
What elf friend?
You know, Selenia.
Who?
The other player over there
I'm
with
sorry, I do not pay attention to names.
the other player over there with you.
That's Emmy.
Emmy?
And she's not an elf.
She's not an elf? There we
Yeah,
go.
she's a ninja wannabe who's for some reason learning magic.
She's a ninja wannabe. Okay.
And eating all the food. Yeah,
Okay.
she's eating all the food.
Alright, Emmy. Selenia is from earlier campaign then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for helping. So what does Emmy want to see?
What do you want to see, Emmy? I yeah.
We open the game up into being a sandbox. Exactly the
We
way
can
we
go
want to.
wherever we want to now, and yeah, we're playing sandbox now.
So you can pick any of the 8 elements. Well, any of the 7 elements, and we'll find somewhere to go.
6 elements, Chris. 6 elements.
Sorry, yeah, whatever.
And then 2
Yeah, you know what I mean.
um I'm trying to remember what your snack was when we were in the time area. They might have accidentally put too much salt on it, so yes, let's go to the water area then.
Okay. Uh, any specific part of the water area, or just the water area in general? Not pick the second element disposition to the area, rather.
His question is, since there's the 6 main elements, you chose water for main, but then you can pick another one for its secondary, because pretty much all areas are, which means swamp. And then you'll run into Shrek. What are you doing in my swamp?
Yep. What are you?
Yeah, water and fire, why not?
Okay. So when you
That
step,
might also be helpful for my character's quest.
maybe.
Instead of being treated like the main character, yay! For once I have the main character!
Yay! So when you step through this portal, you come to a mountainous, waterfall-filled area. It is,
That sounds like an area that I get on Minecraft all the time.
yep. It has tall, narrow, uh, sort of monopoles sticking up here and there, and then water just flowing out of the sides of the mountain there, right next to you. And then you're in the middle of a sort of a tiny mountainous area where there's like 5 or 6 mountains right around you on top of the one you're on. And but then down at the base of the mountain are a number of rivers that are all flowing and channeling out to the bay, which is then the double water area that then leads out into the ocean. And
It's the quadruple water area.
huh?
The ocean water area.
That's the double water area, but actually it's just connected to it. The ocean itself is just super huge and spans all the elements again. But that's another story. Um, oh yes, so oh goodness. You're halfway up a mountain. Above you appear to be many different magical creature flocks flying hither and thither, and below you are handfuls of villages and towns in these different maze-like straits. Where do you seek to try to go? And then you can always return to this point and go back through here. And you also have your Toon World book with you. I mean, Animated World book with you.
I'll just refer to it as Toon World. We all know what you mean.
Yeah. Anyways. But yeah, you have your special dimensional book with you. And, so yeah, which way, where are you going? Up mountain, down mountain, across the mountain to another
one. Let's go across.
As you cross it, you note that there are 5 different villages in the area, but they all seem to interconnect, so they might as well be one big village. The way that they look like they act, and how the traffic looks while you're up there between the villages, and how close they are. And then, above you, more clearly you can make out the magical creatures' general nesting areas and the like, up upon the peaks of the mountain. And then roll me a percentile real quick, or let me roll one. I got a dice spot right here. Oh yeah. So, our 2d10, 79%. Give me a moment to remember the thing. You hear some semi-distant roaring. Do you choose? Do you want to? Yeah. As you get closer and you finally get within visual range of it, the local inhabitants are fending off a incredibly large boar, like a humongous pig.
I know what a boar is.
Yep. But it has some strange goat legs to it. This is one of the oddest pigs you've seen in a minute. Unless you've seen some really weird pigs, which I don't know. But yeah. And it's kind of red, shaggy, brown. It's this reddish, shaggy brown to its hair and coat and skin, as opposed to, say, the pink of most pigs we know. It even has a
I
beard
know what a
and
boar
tusks.
is.
Yeah, it even has a beard and tusks and then a razorback hair line to it.
Yeah, yeah, I know what a boar is.
It's more for the audience's sake, just in case. So, anyways,
Well, just let them Google it if they don't know what it is.
it is having volleys of spears hurled into it. Let me see how that's going. Um, it was attacking that village that was near it, but they're really hitting it hard, and so that's why you hear all the squealing and yelling and commotion. Um, how do you choose to react to this knowledge? What's happening?
They're getting food. You let them get their food.
Let them get their food? Okay. You see if they continue
You
to
don't
do
need to
well.
interfere and they'll probably get mad anyway if they interfere. You've
Quite
already
possibly.
offended enough people.
Oh no. Some other people faltered, but the goat pig is not super steady either, so next round. Ah, okay. This is where I feel that they basically pin it down and get it. Yes, they managed to complete and not need your help for once. This fight.
Well, they know what they're doing.
Well, they could have messed up. The pig could have broken through their ranks and ran roughshod over them and caused injuries, which would have forced at least the idea of intervening into your head, I'd hope.
Yeah, if they got beat up, then maybe we would help. But
Right. Which was totally
if
possible.
they're gonna go hunting boars, they should know what they're doing.
Yeah, usually. But there's actually the boar was attacking uh, the one, basically the closest village to you, which is down at the base of this mountain, right on the riverbank, and they had managed to fend off the boar. So with one last roaring grunt squeal, it hits the ground and tumbles, and then stops right near the river's edge. And thankfully, it's downstream from most everybody, and the offlet doesn't affect anybody else's water. And oh, where are we going from here? Yeah, where are you going from here after seeing this happen in front of you?
Well, they're okay. We don't know.
Where are you going? Further across the mountain onto the next mountain? Or up or down? Or are you wanting to look at where the different creatures are?
We're going and looking around. We're just looking around.
Roll me a notice.
Maybe go to town. There's a town. We go to the town.
You want to go to the town? Okay. You get down to the town, and about 2/3 of the people that live there are some form of fish or aquatic species. like a merman or a gilly or like that. There are, humans and humanoids there, but it appears to be a lot of that type. Uh, Fins and scales and gills. They do have a strange magical presence. They probably have their own version of a pact or guard or something. Oh, got another message. Oh, okay.
Examining the presence.
Oh. Anyways, yes, the presence. It is roll an arcane of somebody's. Arcane knowledge.
Roll an arcane.
Knowledge or skill.
Roll. Because he's not even here. Okay. 6 plus 2. My dude's got an arcane of some degree. 8.
Yes, you get that it's a protective energy. You're not sure what's connected to it, but there's more than meets the eye here, too. So, play nice. Um, it's a bit less centralized, too. Like, it's just the general area, and there's no real focal point to it.
Are we on the back of a giant turtle island?
No. Don't give me ideas. That's not where we're at. No.
I recommend the turtle island.
We'll do that.
It's a very good idea.
Just not right here.
It's a very good idea.
Yep. It's a great idea. I'd love it. But right now we're just on the ground. On this planet.
But there's some centralized.
Yeah, there's no centralized bit to this magical field. That appears to be a defensive one. Where you want to go from there?
Very good, very good.
So yeah, where do you want to go from there? Or would you like to look at the magical creatures? Up on the peaks. Roll me another notice.
Notice.
Excuse me, I'll be right back. Sorry about the what? Sorry about the wait.
What?
Oh, dang it, I forgot something. Be right back. One last thing. I had to visit the, real life spot. Okay. Now, where... Oh, yes. So, what did we roll
Yeah.
on notice?
Roll notice. Roll notice.
Or investigate. Investigate, you've got enough time to do it,
7.
too. Nice. Okay.
I got a 7.
You work out that the smaller, more diminutive magical creatures are on this mountain, and the next mountain over, where there are no abutting villages, is where the larger creatures are.
Large creatures in another village.
No villages over there. Basically, the one mountain on the range that has no villages at its base. And it's part of the river bays. So,
Say hello. Hello, hello.
oh, so you don't go to the mountain yet? You visit the village first?
Go visit a village. Say hello to things.
Okay, so you visit the
Find out
village.
about the special energies.
Okay. Well, you're greeted by, like I said, mostly mermen, couple humans, couple of beast folk, couple elves, this, that, and the other. And, maybe a Vedakin or two. And you see, oh, come on. It's a prosperous village, to a point. They're starting to carve up the boar. They're about most of the way through it, actually, by the time you get there. Um, they ask you who you are and why are you here, as you approach the village. The village guards, rather. They are mermen with spear and very loose-fitting leather armor.
Well, currently we're just kind of passing through.
They ask you who you are and where you're from, then.
Would give basics of where he's from.
Okay. They say, "Oh, brother," because you are of a hot-blooded element as they are.
Oh. Huh? Sorry, I didn't get part of that. Not sure if my volume's just too loud or...
One of the guards says, "Ah, a brother," referencing a shared hot-blooded piece of the elemental affinity.
Ah, he's of a fire element. Okay.
Yeah. So, at least this guy isn't going to go around saying you're too red.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just from previous games.
Yep. He's too red. Do you ask him much anything else? Or do you go into the village and look around, or...
Yeah, we go look around.
You see the usual sea harvest for sale, algae, fish, uh, even some mushroom and anemone sort of stuff. They have as a delicacy. Somehow they've made it so the anemone is not poisonous. Or they found a non-poisonous variety, rather. But it's, poisonous enough to other things that it stays alive. And doesn't get, too predated. Um...
We see food.
Yeah, you see all kinds of food. You see um, crude tools for sale. Um, there's some minor potions here, nothing crazy, but all the magic stuff is basically being worn and used in this village. Might be able to trade for it if you barter. Like if you're trying to get something magical, but you gotta really barter hard and overpay a little. After bartering hard, because magical items, they can make them, but it's kind of hard for them to do that. Like they can make the more magic item, but actually manufacturing the initial item in a masterful enough way is sometimes frustrating to those people. So yeah, are you looking for anything in particular that you'd like to buy, or any?
Not that I know.
Okay, they also have an elder's tent if you're looking for more information and wisdom and knowledge.
Seek knowledge, find out about the magical energies.
Okay. Um, the elder of the tribe is outright with you, and they say, you have very good eyes, young ones. However, you cannot see what defends our place, for it lies in the murky deep. It will come to our aid when we need. It is best left alone, however, most of the time. We haven't seen it in over 300 years, in fact. Haven't had to. But if a day ever comes, we will see it. For we have...
How do you know it still exists or is still alive if you haven't seen it such a long time?
he looks over at the water, and then he gestures at the boar that they're slicing up. They drop like a leg or two off into the water, and it just floats for a while, but then it disappears into the water. So they give tribute quite often, and the tribute disappears like it should, so they're pretty sure that things are still cool. And all this is implied by his motion and the actions happening. And your characters would probably be smart enough to figure this out.
Yeah. Yep.
And, so...
I just wonder
Yeah. Yo,
why you don't ever communicate with your guardian.
no need to. Actions speak louder than words. We split our catch with it. It splits some of its catches with us. And it defends our village. And when and where we can, we help it. It is a great serpent with 3 legs. It's a cousin to another serpent who has only 1 leg but 3 heads. That's another story in another time. Is there anything else our village can do for you, or I can help you with?
I don't think there was anything in particular that we were looking for.
Not even a... This is the GM reminding you. Not even any specific types of creature?
Alright, dragons. Find out if there are any dragons in the area.
He says yes, over on the next mountain range. It is after the, what are those big things? Sorry, I'm having a brain fart on the name of something big. Trolls. There's some trolls at the next mountain's ridge. So you may wish to either pass through that area stealthily and carefully, or circumvent it completely and head further up the river until you reach the base of the next mountain, and then go from there up. At which point...
And nobody ever questions why he's asking for dragons.
Well, the elder can kind of see that the young man has purpose in his eyes, so he can pretty much guess that after chatting about the energy and how it's defending the area, you can pretty much guess that this young man is doing his own form of pretty much the same thing. And so he's like, oh yeah, it's over there. Otherwise, yeah, you're 110% correct. And it is hilarious that if this old man weren't that wise, that he's saying this and he's that dumb. But either way, oh, where were we? Infinity. Oh yes, yes. So there, you could take a boat over to the base of that mountain. We'll lend you, or you could traverse back up through across our mountain onto that mountain at their bridging. And either way, the trolls would be through the bridging, whereas it is said that sphinxes guard the other pathway.
Should be smart enough to handle the sphinxes or strong enough to handle the trolls.
That is excellent to hear. So, is there any other questions?
No, I believe that's all we need to know. Thank you for your time.
Yes, yes. Thank you for visiting our humble village and chatting with this old man. And he bids you adieu, or he gives you his respectful, religious, well, not religious, but his blessing motion, and bids you adieu. And so you then traverse which way? Back into the village, or head out? Or what do you do?
Let's take the water path just because we can.
What's up? Bruce Lee's favorite drink.
What?
What's up? What's up? Bruce Lee's favorite drink.
For a second there, I thought that Austin was here because just random outbursts.
What's up? Anyways. So yeah, you take the water route. You borrow a boat. Is that what I heard,
Yes,
right?
we get a boat.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you are all on the boat. We are all in the boat. And we go across the river, up the stream, against the current. And you reach the shoreline. Roll me 2d10s, high or low.
Hi, because we are 66.
You come upon a raiding party of 6 or so mermen and 3 other races. They are a hunting party.
Hi.
They're a hunting party.
Hunting party.
Yeah.
Well, you'll find no things to hunt here.
They're actually returning from a hunt. They had just downed a sphinx.
Good for them.
Yep. Do you have any questions for them? Well, they say be careful if you're headed in there. These buggers, and 2 or 3 of them heft the Sphinx that they had just slain, are real tricky to deal with. And they usually know where you're at, even if you're good at hiding. And they slink off into the water and swim back to the village that you just came from. So, what do you do here?
We go in.
You go in and up the mountain. Okay.
We go in and find the thing.
Roll me
Or
either.
I guess try not to find the thing.
Yeah, roll me either climbing and or agility, and you may want to throw on a stealth. And then describe how you're getting up these rocks and through the path, and how you're progressing up this path that's very winding, but you can skip over it as well and kind of climb up it. So, although you kind of do have to keep yourself.
Find the locations that are fairly easy to climb, but are also gonna help keep you hidden so things don't find you.
Okay, roll me a notice to boost your stealth. Or an investigate if you're taking your time.
Okay, well, I've got a 10 for climbing.
Okay, good. Excellent.
A 14 for stealth.
Excellent.
Great. And a 12 for notice.
Okay, 12 success raised and overlapping success. You definitely spot the right way to get up stealthily. What was your stealth rating again?
14.
14? Okay, it's boosted to 16 now. And that makes that 4 successes. Success raised, 2 overlapping successes. And then stealth rating 16. Let me roll against that. I'm pretty sure this is the Sphinx. 8 plus its keen senses. And then how many? Let's roll a d4 for how many. Let's see if this works. I don't think that worked. Okay, I'll start off like this. Oh. Okay. Good, good. You notice a full wing of Sphinx fly past you, but they act as though they didn't really notice you at all. So, you make your way up the valley of the Sphinxes, or precipice of the Sphinxes, and you're doing rather well. You note that there is a feeling of a large, almost amphitheater-like presence to this area now that you're coming into. and there feel as though there are three major paths, and then you can go around this amphitheater feeling area if you so choose. You can go left, you can go right, or you can go straight up the amphitheater. You can stealth along the side, you can go on the outside, you can try to fly over. If you have the ability to somehow, you can maybe...
Not to fly, since we're kind of trying to stealth away from the flying creatures.
Right, exact. So what are you doing in this amphitheater-like area you've stumbled into? There's not a whole lot you can do.
I guess, because that's
outside.
where we're at.
Yep. Like, it's right at the start of the incline. Like, you go up it, and then boom, it's here. You can try to go around it, you can go around maybe the side of it, or you can try to stealth through it. And there's left, right, and center on stealthing through it. And there are plenty of jaggedy
Keep
rocks.
on going.
Keep on going. You go up these jaggedy rocks, left and right and hither and thither. They smell a little musky, these rocks, as you get anywhere near them. You're going straight up the middle, right?
Whichever one is most stealth-worthy.
Oh, that's up to you. You gotta pick left, right, or center on going up this amphitheater. With like tons of rock seeds.
Left.
So you're going up the left side of it. Good. And as you go up the left side of it, you notice that at the top, it looks like a large monumental statue of a sphinx. It's just sitting there, not doing anything. It doesn't even look like it's breathing. It's a statue. So it's huge. Yep. Do you keep going, or do you want to investigate it, or what's going on?
Well, it's just a statue. We can keep going. It's just a statue.
Okay, so you keep
What's
going.
the statue look like?
It looks like a sphinx. And then, as you keep going...
Okay, if it looks like a sphinx, let's examine.
Okay, this thing's like huge. You come to a spot where you can't get any closer without leaving cover. Do you choose to do so? Or do you choose to study it from here?
Yes, we might as well.
Leave the cover? Or study it from here?
Mm-hmm.
Study it from
Well,
here?
examine to find the best route to continue stealthing through.
Okay. Roll me notice. Or investigate, depending on how long you're sitting here.
Play with notice. 7, 12.
So you got 12 on your notice?
Yeah, but Marie got a 9.
Excellent. Well, Marie notices, and you both notice that, wow, this This statue is really, really intricately done. It's very gray.
We noticed that, wow, this statue is actually a real one.
Yep. You notice
Come
that
on,
it's
now we're
breathing.
smart enough.
Marie does not notice that it's breathing. Or Emmy does not notice that it's breathing, whereas your character does. How do you choose to continue? I take it back around the left side, because it's laying on its left, which would be to your right. And its head is at the end of the right path. Whereas,
This is where you just like, suck.
oh, you just want to jump out and say, "What's up?"
I mean, our goal is to stealth, so
So, nope.
probably best to continue our stealth thing.
Okay, give me one moment. You go and you get out the left side, and then you see the giant tail hammering the ground. Give me an agility check in a moment after I do something. Like this guy's big. And important. Uh-oh. Ooh. As you had approached up the left side, its tail starts to smack the ground like a cat's tail is when it's happy, kinda. It notices you, but it's not like leaping at you or anything. It kind of beckons you over.
Okay, we go over. We don't want to offend it.
Yep. It asks you, or it says, you are very stealthy, but not quite stealthy enough. Who are you and what are you seeking in these lands?
We'll explain at least a bit of, not all of it, obviously, because those sphinxes, they're smart. They can use things against you if they feel like it.
Yep.
We explain that we are travelers passing through.
And why shouldn't...
Just some questers.
Yep. And it asks, and why shouldn't I enjoy some traveler stew tonight? It's implied riddle.
My first response would be because if you do, you would take many unnecessary wounds.
You are of the blood of the dragon to a point, or at least blessed with its energy a little somehow, intertwined with its eldritch nature. squabble with you might turn into as you say. It then stares at your dragon stone. Even if it's hidden, it looks right at where it is. And it asks, what of the one who was originally bound to that stone? Because it can basically see how magic works.
Go on.
Tell him. He says, that's unfortunate for your people. I am a leader and I have to look out for my people.
More than you know.
Yes. And so I feel I should help you. You will certainly find a dragon that can definitely defeat the one that you want to defeat here. But will it be merciful to your people? I don't think that nature is here. I feel you should head over, and he's thinking hard about where they're at. A little to the northwest of here. A sandbar has another dragon. Instead of, oh wait, no, not that one. Oh, I have to go and use. Oh, yes. To the northmost part of this continent, actually. Where the highest mountains are. And you'll certainly find a dragon of the right character who should be powerful enough to defeat the one that you are trying to defeat. Though it is...
We're trying to defeat... I don't know we're trying to defeat anyone.
Well, I can kind of guess that you're looking around for a new guardian for a reason, and it sees that the original wasn't rebonded. So...
I mean, the bond doesn't actually get broken upon previous owners' death. The one holding the stone is the one that's capable of breaking the bond.
Oh, okay. So...
And my character being the good person he is, when the dragon was saying he didn't want to serve any longer, my character let him go, and dragon's so happy, then goes and
just attacks everybody.
starts destroying things.
Yep.
Because he hated being bonded.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, well... He still deduces that, he says that the dragons here you find would be of similar quality to the ones you have right now. You might want to go to the north part of the continent on top of the highest mountains to find the light fire dragons. Though the choice is still up to you. There could be some dragon out there that is this area's type that will still be good, but I don't see a whole lot.
Telling us there's a better dragon in a different direction.
Though, do go ahead and try. I won't stop you.
So we can head towards the better dragons then.
Okay.
Sphinxes are usually trustworthy. They are lawful, so...
Okay. You'll basically want to make your way back down the amphitheater and over to your entry to this area. And then once you get to the entryway to this area, back to the time land, we go and we find the portal, or a portal, to the northernmost part of the continent. We were on sort of northeasterish. And up here, we find the mountains are towering. They're just monumental. Like, it'll take a day to get up one of them.
Towering towers.
Yep, and then the higher up you are of them, the more... Oh, and this is like the next day. You'd probably want to rest when you get back to the time place. Because that would have taken basically half the day to get out there, half the day to get back to the time place.
Yep.
Oh yeah, everybody's gotten a Benny so far, at least once.
And we'll have to call it quits after distributing stuff.
Okay, give me one moment to recount the day's events.
We all get a Benny wherever my pencil's at. Benny! Okay. Hey, XP.
I want to say you had 4 meaningful progress making scenes / areas. So 4 XP. So is that a total of 9 XP from last session that Austin still doesn't have?
I've no clue. I spent mine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's 10 or 9.
I think it's 10 XP actually.
Oh yeah, it is, because it was a real rush, like not rush, but you guys kept getting through the stuff fairly well. Whew. Yeah, I hope that was enjoyable. Sorry I didn't get into any good wargaming today, but we mostly avoided the combats, which would have been kind of difficult, if not really difficult, possibly, depending on what we were fighting. And,
Especially when we're missing a player.
yeah, that too. But you made a lot of progress. You know what you're trying to find. You found something super knowledgeable that helped you out, that could have ate you, and it didn't. It just lets you do your thing. And then, yeah. Okay, so 10 XP total. Give yourselves another Benny each for playing out your characters, if I recall correctly.
Okay, 2 bennies.
Yes. And then when do we want to shoot for next? Just try for again for Saturday, or
Keep shooting for Saturdays.
okay. Good. Well, thank you very much for playing. I hope you enjoyed.
I enjoy it. Enjoy it better if we had all the members, but things happen and members can't turn up, so.
Yeah, stuff happens. And hey, we got the save record started. Woohoo!
Our first video save record.
Yep. I'll make other video save records. Let me know if you'd be up for making them with me, because I'll have trouble remembering some of them on the details here and there. But I remember most of the main events, I'm pretty sure. But yeah.
I'll try to chime in when you screw up some of it.
Okay. I appreciate it. I really appreciate that. And I guess that's it for today? Or is there anything else you want to try to do?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Alrighty. See you next time.
See you next time.
Have a great day.
Thank you.